Hello all and welcome to Stingray Tom's Florida and another amazing Florida 10. Today I'm looking at the largest and most successful oceanarium in Florida and really in the US. SeaWorld Orlando will soon celebrate its 50th anniversary on December 15th, 2023. It's the second major attraction built in Orlando and it's the second oldest theme park in the area. It consistently ranks as the 10th most popular park in the US, which is pretty remarkable considering that at the top are the 9 Disney and Universal parks in Florida and California. While SeaWorld got its start as a marine mammal oceanarium, since the early 1990s it has added thrill rides, including 4 coasters with a 5th opening within the next year. It'd take quite a bit of time to give a full history of the park, so today I'm focusing on the 1980s by looking at a pretty unusual event. The 1975 movie Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg, is considered the first Hollywood blockbuster. Jaws would become a franchise with a total of 4 films, though sadly, all 3 sequels are considered less than remarkable by most film critics. That brings us to Jaws 3D, which was mostly filmed at SeaWorld Orlando. As might be guessed, the movie was the 3rd movie in the franchise and was filmed with a 3-dimensional film process. For good or bad, the early 1980s saw a resurgence in 3D movies, though it didn't really last. Interestingly, more modern 3D technology was used by Disney Productions for theme park movies, including Captain EO, Jim Henson's Muppet Vision 3D, and Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. Universal Studios also used the idea, and even SeaWorld joined in with the movie Turtle Trek, located in the first 360-degree theater to show a 3D film. Turtle Trek opened in 2012, but as of 2023 it appears to be permanently closed. But back to Jaws 3D. While the movie is considered pretty bad, it does provide some interesting looks at SeaWorld Orlando only a decade after its opening. So let's look at the 10 amazing facts about SeaWorld and Jaws 3D. Amazing history fact number 1. A Tale of Two SeaWorlds. To set the stage, imagine you're the owner of a real Jurassic World, and someone from Hollywood approaches you to film the movie Jurassic World in your attraction. Or imagine you operate a popular theme park named Delos, and you were sent the script to the thriller Westworld for your approval.
There's Roman world, the lusty, decadent delights of imperial Pompeii. Medieval world, chivalry and combat in 13th century Europe. And Westworld, lawless violence on the American frontier.
Many elements of the Delos resort are potentially dangerous. That's part of the appeal.
Now imagine you're a corporate shill and your attraction, Itchy and Scratchy Land, is approached to film a rather horrifying episode of The Simpsons.
Torture land, explosion land, searing gas pain land, unnecessary surgery land.
These are the latest state-of-the-art animatronic robots. They have sensors that ensure they only attack each other, never the guests.
Elementary chaos theory tells us that all robots will eventually turn against their masters and run amok in an orgy of blood and kicking and the biting with the metal teeth and the hurting and shoving.
What the hell was that?
Think about it. SeaWorld agreed to let their park be tied to humans being eaten by sharks. I don't know if SeaWorld executives really thought that through. You'd think that might have been considered bad publicity. Now, it's certainly not unusual for Florida attractions to be used as locations for movies. Dozens of productions have used the state's venerable attractions, including Silver Springs, Weeki Wachee, Wakulla Springs, and Cypress Gardens as backdrops. Indeed, Marineland, the first oceanarium in the world, was developed as an underwater movie studio, hence its original name, Marine Studios. But SeaWorld became a rare example by representing itself in a movie. It shows the entrance to the park, and actors are in SeaWorld uniforms. There's no question that Jaws 3D is a work of fiction, but it clearly takes place in a well-known and recognizable Florida attraction. While the movie SeaWorld is clearly SeaWorld, there are some significant differences between the movie and the real parks. The most obvious difference is that the real SeaWorld is located in Orlando, while its clear movie SeaWorld is on the coast of Florida. This is important to the plot as it's the only plausible way that a shark could infiltrate the park. Movie SeaWorld presumably gets its seawater from the ocean, while being landlocked, real SeaWorld has multiple salination plants to create salt water for its stadiums and aquariums. Actually, movie SeaWorld is more like the rest of oceanariums in the state. For instance, the Gulfarium has a pipe that extends out into the Gulf of Mexico to collect clean salt water, and the Florida Aquarium operates this tanker ship that goes out into the Gulf to get its most important substance. Movie SeaWorld celebrates the opening of the Undersea Kingdom during the movie, which is probably the largest difference we see in the park, as it's shown in this clip.
All this week has been and continues to be Preview Week, during which family and friends attend SeaWorld as our guests. This is the Undersea Kingdom. 4 years under construction at a cost of more than $34 million. 4 pressurized viewing tunnels radiate out into the lagoon. There's the sunken Spanish galleon, Jonah's Marine Funhouse, the deep water coral forest, all connected to the hub, Central Control, and a deluxe restaurant and cocktail lounge, all 40 feet below the surface. The whole complex is built in our man-made lagoon, which is connected to the open ocean by a deep water channel. The new additions to SeaWorld are the brainchild of entrepreneur Calvin Bouchard.
While the clip's correct that the body of water is artificial, it's nowhere near 40 feet deep. In reality, very few lakes in Florida reach that depth. It's also not connected with other bodies of water, and unlike the movie SeaWorld, it's freshwater, not salt. Now to a quick look at the entrance. Not surprisingly, both SeaWorlds have the same entrance. You can see the blue sign over the entrance with SeaWorld's logo from the 1980s. As you can see from this photo in 1979, the design was different. Eventually, the entire entrance was changed and moved a couple hundred feet to the right. It was relocated between the ticket area and special services listed on this map. Where the old entrance was, SeaWorld put in a pool with models of sea mammals and a lighthouse. This remains the current entrance design. I'll look at some of the other differences and similarities in a bit. Amazing history fact number 2. This was Joe Alves' first and last time in the director chair. While Alves was a highly skilled art director and production designer, his directorial debut got the best of him. At the beginning of the 1970s, he was the art director for Rod Serling's remarkable Night Gallery TV series. He was also the art director for Steven Spielberg's directorial debut, Sugarland Express. He went on to be the production designer for Spielberg's Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, as well as Jaws 2, Escape from New York, and Starman. Certainly the movie's direction isn't its only limitation. The special effects are poor and the story is weak. By the way, it was pretty heavily modified from what Matheson had submitted. One thing that disappointed me is there's simply not enough shark. Amazing history fact number 3. Where exactly is SeaWorld? So the movie establishes that the lagoon is connected to the ocean by a deep water channel. In these 2 clips, you can see water skiers and Dennis Quaid near the sea gate and then quickly entering the lagoon.
Here come my pride and joy.
Are we going to get a chance to talk to Mr. Bouchard?
Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Pertaining to this
Overtime.
Okay. See you, Mike.
No overtime! Hi, Mike.
That means it's on the coast of Florida, but where? I don't think we can pinpoint the location, but we can narrow it down just a bit. Watch this next clip. This again shows the sea gate with a worker diving underwater to check the gate. He's doing this at sunset. In Florida, the sun sets on the Gulf Coast, not the Atlantic, so movie SeaWorld is on Florida's left coast. There's a problem, however. Notice that in the background is some sort of platform. I'm not certain what exactly it is, but the two main possibilities would be a reef light like this one, Alligator Reef off the Isla Morada in the Keys. But the only reef lights in Florida are in the Keys, and they're much smaller than this structure. The other possibility is an oil rig. Here's a couple rigs for comparison. There's as many as 3,500 oil rigs off the U.S. Gulf Coast, but none within 100 miles of the Florida coast. So wherever this scene was filmed, it wasn't Florida. I've seen it mentioned that Navarre Beach was another filming location for the movie. That town's on the Gulf Coast near Pensacola, but this really can't be there considering the likely oil rig as well as the fact that to face the Gulf in Navarre, you look south. Hardly a great place for watching sunsets. I guess that means while movie SeaWorld's likely on the Gulf Coast south of the Big Bend area, since we have to assume the Earth spins the same way in the movie as it does in reality, we have to accept that Florida allows oil drilling. Maybe an oil spill would have been a more realistic antagonist for a movie SeaWorld. Amazing history fact number 4. Whale and Dolphin Stadium, original home of Shamu. Since the park's opening, Whale and Dolphin Stadium have been a home for dolphins and whales. Originally it was the home of Shamu, the stage name, if you will, of all SeaWorld killer whales. Early shows, including those that were performed at the time of the filming of Jaws 3D, included both killer whales and dolphins. You can see the stadium on this clip featuring Bess Armstrong and Dennis Quaid interacting with one of the killer whales.
Right up, cowgirl.
Hi, Mike.
Hey,
I'll be with you in a minute, darling.
all right. Use your spurs.
Hey, Liz. Good boy. That was nice.
Hey.
Hey. Mwah. Mwah.
Hey, you. Come here.
Come here, kiddo. That's feeding place.
Hey, is this whale house broken yet?
Nope.
Well, then he can't come to dinner.
What, are you taking me to dinner?
Yeah, as soon as we pick up my brother.
When's Sean coming?
He's on a park shuttle. We're gonna meet him at the main gate. Hey, Kathy.
Cindy and Sandy don't want to go.
What am I gonna lose? There's a couple of neurotic fish.
Mammals.
Something seems to be bugging them.
Got me. Well, listen, it's their playtime. If they don't want it, they'll be begging us tomorrow. Put them up. You got it.
You know, I'm begging you tonight, huh?
You don't have to beg. So take me to dinner.
All right. Let's grab sushi. I'll change.
Who's a good boy? Are you a good boy? Yes, you're a good boy, and you get a big.
The 3,000-seat stadium was renamed Dolphin Theater recently, and while the park's killer whales were transferred to the new Shamu Stadium in 1984, the Whale and Dolphin Stadium was aptly named because there were several species of whales and dolphins that called it home over the years. The most famous were the bottlenose dolphin, the most common cetacean in Florida oceanariums, as well as the killer whale, which in reality is the largest dolphin species. Along with them, the pools have housed beluga whales, false killer whales, and pilot whales. During some of the shows over the years, birds have also played a role, including parrots, lovebirds, and macaws. Possibly the most notable avian was an Andean condor, one of the largest birds in the world. Named Bob, he had a wingspan of nearly 11 feet or 3.3 meters and a weight of 33 pounds or 15 kilograms. On cue, he'd fly low over the unsuspecting guests on his way to his enclosure in the back of the stadium. He performed throughout much of the first 16 years of the 21st century, representing the largest raptor species. Today, Dolphin Theater and Shamu Stadium are still the biggest draws at SeaWorld. Shamu Stadium holds 5,500 guests and has been the home of as many as 6 killer whales at one time. Amazing History Fact number 5. Atlantis Theater, location of concerts, shows, and a shark attack. Opened in 1977, Atlantis Theater was built for the water ski shows as well as concerts and other big events. You can see some of the earliest music performers here. Known today as Bayside Stadium, it seats about 4,500 people and is used for concerts, ice skating shows, and any number of other events. We don't see all that much of the theater in the movie, but here's a clip of a shark attack on the water skiers in front of the theater. They also use locations near the theater, as can be seen in these photos that show beach scenes which appear to be closer to the Polynesian Village area of the park. Also, the movie just shows the lower seating area, which was probably done so they didn't have to film most of the theater with extras. Amazing History Fact number 6. Sky Tower was the first and only ride in SeaWorld. Beginning operation less than a year after the park opened in 1973, SeaWorld's Sky Tower has been the most visible part of the park. At 400 feet or 122 meters in height, it was the tallest structure in Orlando by over 100 feet when it was first built. It remained the tallest until 1988. Today, it's the third tallest structure just on International Drive, behind the Starflyer attraction and Hyatt Regency Hotel, and it's tied with the Wheel at Icon Park. Orlando's Sky Tower is similar to the Sky Tower at SeaWorld San Diego. That one opened in 1968 and is 320 feet or 98 meters tall. Both towers are observation towers with double-decker cars that spin slowly around the tower to give passengers a 360-degree view. Orlando's Sky Tower is the tallest observation tower in Florida. Since SeaWorld in the 1970s and 80s was pretty much a traditional oceanarium, when the Sky Tower opened in 1974, it was the only ride in the park. It would remain so until after Anheuser-Busch purchased the park and decided to add thrill rides. This is when the park transitioned from oceanarium to theme park. In 1992, a motion simulator ride opened, Mission Bermuda Triangle. Only 3 years later, however, the ride was rethemed to Wild Arctic and operated until 2020. As of 2023, it hasn't reopened, though guests can still see the Wild Arctic animal exhibits. One other interesting fact about Sky Tower. It required a separate fee beyond the general admission price for much of its history. This lasted until 2014 when the fee was removed, though oddly enough, a fee was reinstated when the ride opened recently. Amazing History Fact number 7. A Tale of Three Actors. In connection to the movie, actors Louis Gossett Jr., Dennis Quaid, and Leah Thompson have some interesting stories. Louis Gossett Jr. had just finished the role of Drill Sergeant Foley in An Officer and Gentleman, which was released a year before Jaws 3D. His work in Officer and Gentleman garnered him both an Oscar and a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor. Now you'd hope that Gossett would bring some magic to this production, but no. This ended up being one of the poorer choices in his long career, it seems. Then again, maybe it wasn't his choice. It's been said by several sources that Jaws 3D was the best movie offered to the first black man to win the Academy Award for Supporting Actor. Gossett played Calvin Bouchard, the SeaWorld manager who refused to believe that a massive shark is menacing the park. Then the shark shows up at the underwater restaurant.
Bouchard here. What about the pumps? No. Don't wait for Brody. Just shut down number 2 pump and switch over to number 1. Simple as that. Because they cost too much to replace and they burn out, that's why. And tell Brody to get down here to the Neptune room on the double, yeah? Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, gentlemen. Chin.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
There they are. Calvin, I got bad news.
Keep your voices down. Now, sit down. Sit down. Was it the shark?
It was a shark. It was a shark with a bite radius about a yard across.
Don't be silly. Indicate a shark of some 35 feet in length.
You said it exactly. The animals, they're in the lagoon.
Ski shark.
Control, this is Bouchard. Now, you listen to me carefully. I want you to clear the tunnel. I want you to let the people out. I want you to close the gate and seal the park. You hear me? Seal the...
Dennis Quaid played Mike Brody, the son of Martin Brody, which was Roy Scheider's character in the original Jaws. Quaid's character was the chief engineer at SeaWorld. Despite being the male lead, he doesn't appear much in the early parts of the movie, only getting really involved when the action starts. The likely reason for this is tied to the only part of filming Jaws 3D that Quaid seems to mention in his interviews, that he was high in every frame of Jaws 3D. Quaid has said, "I grew up in the 60s and 70s. There was a completely different attitude about Coke back then. It was even in the budgets of movies, thinly disguised. It was petty cash, you know? It was supplied basically on movie sets because everyone was doing it. I had spent many a night screaming at God to please take this away from me. I'll never do it again because I only got an hour before I have to be at work. Then about 4 o'clock in the afternoon I would go, that's not so bad." In remembering the shoot, producer Rupert Hitzig recalled the atmosphere on set as fun and positive, but there were problems with drugs. Apparently it wasn't just Quaid. As Hitzig said, "I believe we were all guilty. It flowed like snow, and the suppliers just wanted to be part of the fun, so they contributed to the drug use." Jaws 3D was released the same year as one of Quaid's biggest movies, the story of America's first astronauts, The Right Stuff. While his performance as astronaut Gordo Cooper has been reviewed positively, Jaws was the other side of the coin. Leah Thompson was about 21 when she got the role of Kelly, a SeaWorld water skier, and she admits to lying to get the part. She says that Jaws 3D was the very first movie I ever got, but I lied and I said I had done a couple other movies, so when I showed up I really knew absolutely nothing. Also, I had said that I knew how to water ski, and I did not. So I had like 5 days to learn really complicated water skiing things because I had to fit into the SeaWorld water skiing show. I didn't even know how to swim. I wiped out a lot, but I pulled it off, I think, because I was a ballet dancer. The acting was not so good, but I looked pretty good in my bikini, so I think that made up for it.
Ready? My fly's open. Well, it's not only a game of balance, it's a game of deception. Come on, I'll buy you 2 for the one you owe me.
Okay.
At the very least, the movie didn't hurt her career, for it'd be only another year before she'd play Lorraine McFly, the mother and love interest of Marty McFly in the first Back to the Future movie. Amazing history fact number 8. Water ski shows take place in both SeaWorlds. Anyone who knows the history of Cypress Gardens knows that water skiing is an important part of Florida's tourism history, so it wasn't a surprise that SeaWorld chose to add the entertainment to its list of shows. When the Atlantis Theater was built in 1977, the park assembled a water ski team. There have been many different themes to the shows, including DC superheroes, Sky Pirates, A Pirate Adventure, and the Hatfields and McCoys, an apparently deadly but good-natured family feud on water. The shows often included boat tricks, jet skis, jumps, fire, explosions, and of course soundtrack of upbeat music. SeaWorld's water ski shows proved so popular that each park, first SeaWorld Ohio, then Orlando, San Diego, and San Antonio, added them. There was a couple significant incidents, however. In Orlando in 1986, a performer died as a result of his jet ski colliding with a ski boat. He had mechanical issues and missed his cue. Then in 1996 at SeaWorld Ohio, a boat driver lost control of his boat and drove it into the spectator stands. The boat pinned parked guests underneath it and it injured 22 of them. Thankfully, all the victims survived. SeaWorld Orlando would eventually cancel water ski shows and build a walkway from the center of the park over to Shamu Stadium, effectively making the lake in front of Bayside Stadium too small for a proper water ski show. Amazing history fact number 9. Stingray Lagoon's alternative use. Not surprisingly, Stingray Lagoon is my favorite part of SeaWorld. It was great to see that it's featured in the movie, though they used it for an animal from the wrong superorder of cartilaginous fish. Obviously, real SeaWorld features rays in the shallow pool so guests can feed and pet them. The 3 species they presented for many years are cow-nose rays, southern stingrays, and leopard whip rays. This leopard whip ray is one of my favorite animals at SeaWorld. He's known as Boomer, and he's about 5 feet or 1.5 meters across. With his whip-like tail, he's likely 12 feet or 3.7 meters long. Both cow-nose and southerns are smaller, typically growing to be about 2 to 3 feet or 60 to 90 centimeters in width. All 3 species live in shallow water near coastlines and have a serrated spine on the top of its tail near the tail's base. The spine is covered with a venomous mucus with which they can defend themselves. Of course, this makes them all stingrays. Stingray Lagoon was built in 1980. It's a shallow pool less than 3 feet or 90 centimeters deep, and there's a low edge that allows adults to lean over and kids to lie on their bellies in order to interact with the stingrays that are perpetually swimming by. As you can see from these movie photos, the wall was a smooth but irregular rock-like surface. Later, the surface was reshaped to be both smooth and flat with a tan color. Movie SeaWorld used Stingray Lagoon as a set where they tried to keep the smaller shark alive. It's a short scene, but I've put it on the list because stingrays. Amazing history fact number 10. What's the difference? Underwater Kingdom versus Shark Encounter. Those of you who are familiar with SeaWorld Orlando might be confused with the similarities between the movie's Underwater Kingdom and the real Shark Encounter. At first glance, the half-domed tunnel looks to be the same, but it's different in several ways. Of course, this means Shark Encounter wasn't used for the movie. Opening in 1980, Shark Encounter contained a series of small aquariums as well as one large pool. As guests walk through the encounter, they meet various types of larger fish, including barracuda, moray eel, and groupers. At the end, they step into a conveyor belt that takes them into a 120-foot or 38-meter long acrylic tunnel. This leads them underwater into the large pool where they see sharks, rays, groupers, and other fish swimming by. Even though it's more than 40 years old, the attraction is awe-inspiring. The pool is home to several shark species, as you can see here, and contains 700,000 gallons or 2.6 million liters of salt water. In this next clip, you'll see the differences between the real tunnel and the movie set. Note that the movie's tunnel has a metal structure with curved pieces of glass or plastic. The real tunnel doesn't need that structure, as it's built of pieces of thick acrylic that themselves can withstand 450 tons of pressure, certainly enough to deflect the nose of an angry great white shark. The width of the movie's tunnel is also wider, and of course there's no conveyor. By the way, the shark you see swimming towards the tunnel was actually swimming through smoke. Beyond that, the two other parts we see in the movie, the rooms with the watertight doors and the control room, don't exist at the real SeaWorld. The architects who designed the many aquariums in the real park made sure no one would get trapped if something bad happened. As for the control room with its bank of computers, SeaWorld and other oceanariums have little need for anything like that. Certainly there are computers to control a great deal of the park, especially when it comes to rides, but other than making sure that the filter and water flow systems function properly, aquariums aren't exactly complicated. As I've said, Jaws 3D isn't a great movie, but it's fun to see it as a glimpse into the early years of SeaWorld Orlando. It may have been a weird choice for the company's executives to have their family attraction be portrayed as a thriller filled with blood and mayhem, but it stands 40 years later as yet one more monument to Florida attractions. Thank you for watching another of my videos. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to learn more about Florida tourism history. Stingray Tom's Florida, traveling through time around the Sunshine State.
What the hell is that?